What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. This is New Orleans homecoming. New Orleans, real world New Orleans homecoming, episode 5. I got it. Okay. Um, you know, I've been beating up on Julie for the last 3 weeks, but baby, in this episode, I kind of felt a little sorry for her. Let's get into it. So the episode opens up. They're doing a whole hot tub time machine thing, like family reunion, high school reunion, where they have balloons and they're having a party for 2000. Now, for those of you who do not remember Y2K, it was a thing, right? It was, everybody was worried about what was going to happen. Were we going to be able to get into the ATM machines? Were the banks going to be able to be open? Because the everything had been programmed to 1999. They didn't know if they'd be able to figure out the problem, to fix the algorithm, to be able to make everything 2000, right? Now, it sounds silly in retrospect, but in the moment, it was a thing. Like, people were taking money out of the ATM because they didn't know if they'd be able to get to the bank and get money out. I remember I was teaching at the time. That was like, well, I would be telling my age, but it was early in my teaching career. I'm going to say that. We had like 3 extra days of our Christmas vacation because after New Year's, because they weren't sure if the schools would be able to open. Like, it was a thing. So they were just talking about that. And they had everybody dress up in clothes, like something that they would wear on the show. And everybody, I'm gonna say everybody pretty nailed it. We had Matt in his Hawaiian shirts. Julie put her hair in the 2 pigtails and almost had a shirt that looks exactly like one of the shirts she would wear. Danny had his little 2-tone shirts. Now Tokyo didn't put on a wife beater, but it's okay. But the person who nailed it the most was Melissa. Baby, Melissa got a short wig. Melissa put the little glasses on, and she looked, oh my God, she looked the same anyway, but she absolutely looked like she just stepped out of a time machine, and it was cute. You know, we saw them talking a little bit about Y2K and that time period or whatever. And then, of course, Jamie Googles songs of 2000, and the first song that plays is what? Juvenile, Back That Ass Up. Baby, if you don't know nothing about that, you know that. And like she said, if you hear the first opening 2 chords of Back That Ass Up, everybody is running to the dance floor. I don't give a damn. Okay. Now, I feel like the party lasted a lot longer than what we saw, but after that song went off, that's all we saw of the party. Matt said he was going upstairs to say a rosary because he felt like he might have did too much, okay? So the next day, they do one of their incoming messages, and it is about Jamie and the whole myth that everybody had a crush on Jamie and the flirtation with Jamie, and all the ladies sort of flirted with him at some point in time during the house, but his biggest connection seemed to be Julie. Now remember, when Julie came into the house, Julie was a virgin. Julie ain't know nothing about but the Mormon church. She wasn't even supposed to be sharing space with other men, right? It was a whole thing. But she actually kissed Jamie, which again, in retrospect, doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it was a huge deal. Now let's be clear. Jamie was a frat boy. Jamie probably had 5,672 women at that point, and he wasn't really tripping off of that. For him, it was a kiss. They were drunk. It was what it was. But for Julie, it actually meant something. At one point, Julie and Matt were flirting, but I don't think that was ever going to be a thing. We found, Kelly talks about her boyfriend. Remember, she started dating a guy named Peter, and she said they actually stayed together after the show. She moved to New Orleans. They got an apartment together. She said, but, that lasted for about 6 months, and then it kind of fizzled out, and she moved to New York and, started her real career at that point. But then the conversation evolves into Julie and Jamie and this whole Julie-Jamie thing. And Julie was saying how, after the show, they did a couple of challenges together and how they always had this chemistry and they were always connected. And she started talking about how they actually fooled around one night and how much it meant to her and how she always felt like she's got this connection and they have unfinished business. Baby, Jamie was sitting there like, we did. I really don't remember. And so it is embarrassing when you're sitting there talking about a situation that happened and how important it was to you and how much it meant to you, and the person that it happened with is looking at you like, and so Julie sort of plays it off, and Jamie feels really bad. He was like, I feel like, something that was so important to you that I don't even remember. Like, I kind of feel bad about that. And I felt, again, after beating up on Julie for the last couple of weeks, I kind of felt bad for her in that moment because it is uncomfortable. And everybody around them was uncomfortable with it. But again, they were all like, well, we definitely saw the chemistry. We definitely felt like there was more there. And then we learned more about Jamie, Julie, and Matt's home lives. We see, we see a little package with their wives. Jamie said, listen, when I left the house, I thought I was going to be this, I was going to make money on the .com. Of course, that didn't happen. I did a bunch of other things. I had a couple of failed businesses. But, then I met my wife. We met on Tinder. He said we met on Tinder. And, a couple of years ago, we had a set of twins at 3 years old. And they're the love of my lives. He said, it really made me change up some things and do some things, lose some weight and do some things so I could be a better father. Matt, he talked about his wife and their spirituality and how important their faith is to them. And they have 6 kids, but then they had one that they lost. He talks about his family being his everything and how this is the longest he's ever been away from them and how hard that has been for him. And then we see Julie and her husband, and she talks about, like, listen, yes, I feel like maybe there was something there between me and Jamie, but I absolutely love my husband. And, we have such a connection, and he is definitely my guy, and all of that. And so that was great. But again, Julie was just really sitting there like, and Julie really, I think, feels like there's some unfinished business with her and Jamie. Like, she really feels like, but how much of this is really Julie, and how much of this is Julie playing that part? Because remember, we're not going to forget about her in the hot tub talking about what she's trying to do and how she's trying to create moments, okay? So let me be clear about that. So later on, we see Julie and Jamie talking. And Julie talking about something, yeah, I mean, you gave me my first orgasm. And, I just don't know what to do with all of that and that emotion. But, I guess I should thank you because you helped me understand and be ready for my husband. Because they also were alluding to the fact that Julie is very, passionate. Okay. And so she, she saying all the right things, but I mean, there's a part of me that's really looking at her like, girl, don't you make no moves on national television that's gonna get you in trouble when you go back home. Anyway, so Melissa, another throwback to the show. Melissa decides to bring in a tarot card reader, a fortune teller, if you will. And Matt is so not with it. Matt is like, listen, this is against my spirit. This is against my religion. This is against my faith. I don't play around with the arts. I don't play around with, fortune telling and all that. And Melissa tells him, she says, listen, I respect that. I respect how you feel. I respect how you feel on that. And you have every right to feel the way you feel. That's cool. We're going to do this, though. We're going to have a good time. And you can stay up here and read your Bible. And we'll catch up with you when we catch up with you, Now, I'm going to say this. I ain't about to sit here and tell y'all that woman don't really have no spirituality. But what I am going to say is I feel like that a lot of what she was telling these people came from her watching the first season and following them down to the Instagram and the Twitter. Because she told Melissa it's time for you to go into politics. Now, everybody know how radical Melissa could be and how her mouth can be very, power to the people, right? She said that Kelly is clearly very passionate and good in bed and, very, loving or whatever. And of course we know who her husband is, a celebrity, so they're showing pictures of her with her husband. She says to Tokyo, you're used to doing things on your own, but in your next trip around the sun, it's time for you to find a partner. Like, I just felt like it was some alley-oop. She tells Danny it's time for him to be a leader, a teacher. I just felt like it was very, I watched the seasons and I'm going to give you some stuff based on what I remember y'all did. That's just how I feel about it. But I ain't saying that woman don't have a gift, because far be it for me to tell that woman she ain't got no gift, child. I don't know. So then we come around and we play a game called Who Said That? Now, basically, at the end of the show, MTV had them answer some questions, basically like this is how you feel going out. And some of those quotes ended up in this book. It was almost like a burn book. It was like, I'm gonna say everything I wanted to say. This is my final chance to get it off my chest. And so they were putting the quotes up there, and some of the quotes were like, oh, okay, oh, I said that, oh, okay, I said that. But then there were a couple of spicy quotes. One about Melissa's eyebrows, another one about Danny never being happy and never really, being in a good space or whatever. And come to find out, Matt said all of that. Mr. Spirituality, Mr. Catholic, said a lot of nasty things about his castmates. And Danny was like, well, let me say this. You say that I always felt like I wasn't happy, or I came off as I wasn't in a good space. He was like, but that's because you just got finished telling me that, my whole existence is wrong. Like, my sexuality is a problem and that I need to pray to God. And of course, they flash back to it of him telling him, well, you need to pray on that. You need to pray on that. You need to pray on that. And so they asked Matt, they were like, well, do you still feel that way? Like, do you still feel homosexuality is wrong? And he gonna say, I'll just say good vibes or some crazy shit. I just say, live in peace, good vibes. So the production was like, okay, but okay, girl, does that mean that you still have a problem with homosexuality? Like that's what I need to get from you. Do you still have a problem with homosexuality? He gonna say, I feel like I answered that question. No, you didn't. You didn't answer that question. And then that's where the episode ends. So, child, it looks like we're going to get in the next episode, we're going to get the part 2 of that. But anyway, y'all let me know what y'all think. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.